Okay, welcome to another exciting Terry Dame tutorial. Today we are going to talk about room reverb. So all of your projects take place inside, outside, whatever. They're all in some kind of space that has acoustics, and the way we represent that in recreating a sound design is using reverb, or a special kind of reverb which is known as convolution reverb. So these are sampled reverbs. They go and they sample the acoustics of all kinds of places all over the world, all kinds of interiors, and use algorithms to recreate those digitally for our sound design use. So the plugin that we have is the Waves impulse response. So they're known as impulse response. The samples that they take are known as impulse responses, or IRs, and you can store them on your computer and use them for your needs. Okay, so this is an example using the City for Lost Children. Goodbye. City for Lost Children clip, and this is the second part of that clip where the evil mad scientist has kidnapped the young boy by pretending he is multi-Santa, and they're in his laboratory. And let's just take a quick look. So it's this creepy scientist. Here's the premise. The creepy scientist kidnaps children because he can't dream, so he tries to kidnap kids and steal their dreams. But the problem is he's so creepy, he inherits their nightmares and not their dreams. Okay, so here it is in the laboratory, but I want you to see the here's the transition. So it's this, there's the minion of clones, and so you can see it's this big cavernous space, metal. It would be very reverberant. It would have a lot of acoustic quality and character. Okay. So the thing with room reverb is that all of the sounds that are existing in that acoustic space are going to have the same reverb, the same treatment. So, and there's a lot of tracks here in this session. So I would have to send, if I were going to use this like we use other real-time plugins, I would have to stick that plugin on every single one of these tracks containing audio in that scene that's in that room. And that would implode my computer. So because these convolution reverbs are very high, they take up a lot of processing power. So we're going to achieve sending some audio from all of these tracks to one place where we were going to put our reverb plug-in, and that is known as an effects send. So we're going to do that using a stereo auxiliary input track. We haven't used this before. So first thing I'm going to do is create a new stereo auxiliary input track. Okay. And it's down here, and I am going to put it up here just so we can see it easier. I'm going to call this my room reverb. All right. Reverb. Okay, so here this is where we're going to place our reverb. So I'm going to go ahead and you need two columns open in addition to your IO, your input output. You should always have that open. So if you don't know how to, you want an inserts column and a send column, because we're going to create an effect send. And if you don't remember, here are where those things are: inserts and sends, A to E. Cool. Okay. So let's go ahead and insert that reverb plugin on our room reverb track. So I'm going to go into reverb, and I'm going to choose the IR1 efficient. You could do the full also. This uses slightly less processing power and is probably just fine. And here's the plugin. So we'll come back to this. I'll get to it right now. Why not? Okay. So the way you search for sound for the rooms in this plugin, over here, the load button. Yeah. the load button. And what we want are sampled acoustics. So the sampled acoustics are known as IRs, or impulse responses. So over here you see all kinds of categories: amphitheaters, arenas, auditoriums, ballrooms, car interiors, just in case you're 40 Econoline and your Lincoln Navigator, churches, clubs, concert halls, devices. These are kinds of external reverb units. Hallways. So those of you that are working on the reflection one might find something for the interior of the building when she's running up the stairs. Medium halls, miscellaneous, these are interior, so again, you reflection people. Bathroom, living room, you might make use of those. There's some outdoor ones. Desert is probably the closest you'll get for the Rango. Anyway, you'll look through here, you'll choose what you want. I want a big echoey thing, so I think I'm going to actually choose a cave or a cavern. Okay, so impulse responses, and then this only has one, and the preset is probably cool for our purposes. Okay, so now here shows me rear cavern. Okay, I'm going to close that up for now. So there we go. We have our chosen reverb sound on this auxiliary input track. So now I'm going to set my input. I want to set this input of this reverb track, because we want to have, there's going to be stuff coming in. There's going to be audio signal coming into this track to get treated with that reverb, and then it's going to go through this reverb and come back out the output and join all the rest of the sound. So I'm going to set our input of that reverb track to an open bus. Now, important that you choose bus. Buses are internal routing, virtual routing systems. So they're just going to send that audio signal along a route, a path from one destination to another, and they're called buses. They're virtual. They're not connected to any actual cables on the back of the computer or anything like that. So the ones in yellow mean they're already being used by something else, so choose a white one. Yours probably be 1 and 2 because you won't have done anything with this before. So I'm going to choose bus 19 and 20. That's my path. So that's where I'm going to send the signal from all of these tracks, a little bit of signal from each of these tracks that are happening, in sounds that are happening in that cavernous laboratory. And they're going to arrive here through this input on bus 19 and 20 and go through the reverb unit and come out all reverby. So this track is just going to have reverb. Okay, how are we going to send it to it? We're going to send it to it using a send. So here's my send column. I'm going to go into my first cell of my send column, and I am going to again choose bus, and I want to choose the same bus so that it travels on that bus 19 and 20. If I open this up a little more, bus 19 and 20. This is a send. So you'll notice, boom, 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 boom. When I click the send, I get this fader. This fader represents how much of the audio, of the sound effect on this track right now. So this is, if I solo this, whispers. Can you hear that? Whispers, right? Santa whispering. This fader controls how much of those whispers, that signal, gets sent via bus 19 and 20 over here to the room reverb to get processed. Okay, so right now, if we listen, no signal. There's no signal showing here in this meter. There's no signal up here coming in on the room reverb. Let me turn my play loop. Oops, not record. Okay, so watch when I turn this fader up. Now we start to see signal in the fader. We start to see signal coming in up here on the room reverb, because this is opening the gate, allowing the whispers to whisper their way down bus 19 and 20 into this track and get processed by this plug-in. Can you dig it? If I wanted more, I could bring the reverb, increase the reverb time, and it would get more intense. Okay. All right. So, another thing that's good to do is do what's called solo safing your room reverb track. That means it will always be soloed regardless of what other things you solo in your other tracks. And you do that by holding by holding command and clicking on it, and now you see how it's grayed out. That means it's solo saved, because you always want that to be on. Okay, so herein lies the rub. I need to add one of these sends to every single one of these tracks that has audio that I want to send to the to that reverb. So I definitely want all these. Now this has quite a beefy ambience. All these ambience tracks. Let's solo these ambience tracks and just hear what the ambience sounds like alone. I think this is part of the ambience too. So get over here. So this is just the ambience. Right? Go one by one. Oh, not that one. Okay, so he's got this helicopter thing in here. And there's sort of just like a weird ambient. There's some like machine sounds. So all together it creates this, I think this is part of it too. So you see how important the ambience is. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of stuff that make up the background ambience. So don't skimp on your ambience, but it's really great. Okay, so I'm not sure I would want, because that's so watery and like reverberant as it is, I don't think I would want to add any more reverb to that. But these little hard effects appear, or actually more likely screams. Right. So here's where we transition to the laboratory. So it's a lot of screaming. Okay, so I definitely want my screams. I think I would want this whispers, because it kind of carries over from the other scene. And all this stuff, the brain dialogue, the brain talks. Okay, so basically all of these tracks. So I want this track through this track to have reverb. So you can do the same action to multiple tracks by holding shift and options. You highlight the tracks you want. So I want to add this send to all of these tracks. I highlight all those track names, shift and option, and then I go do the move. 19 and 20, and voila. So the thing is, and this is really important, so make sure you make note of this. Just adding a send doesn't actually make sure that is going to send anything to the reverb. You have to manually adjust the level of audio that it's going to send per track. So if I click on this one, notice it defaults to negative infinity, which otherwise known as nada, nothing, no signal at all. So in this case, you know, and it tells you which track you have. See right here, it says brain 1. That tells you that this is the control that is telling how much of this brain dialogue it's going to send to the reverb. So here, if I... So that's with nothing. Will the tale turn to tragedy or have a happy end? Now you might not want, you know, just make sure you don't make your dialogue so muddy. Okay, so then my next track, I'm gonna put them all at around 10, just for now, and then I'll. Okay, so you remember. Okay. So you get me. You got to go and adjust the level of each track, and that's, again, how much of the audio of that track is getting sent. So now I'm just doing all the little screaming. Now let's listen to it. That's better. This guy. So there's the main guy screaming. So it's better because so here there it is with reverb. If I bypass this for a second, so yeah, it's like it's really dry. Reverb really helps create a sense of space. So that's what we're doing. So make sure you include a reverb send. So that's a stereo auxiliary track with that Waves IR1, and go ahead and use the efficient one. You set your input of that auxiliary input track to an open bus, which is a virtual routing system, and then you open your send column and you add a send to every track that you want to send to that reverb, and you set that send to the same bus that you set the input of your room reverb track to, in my case 19 and 20, and then you make sure you adjust the level of every track and how much reverb you're sending to this puppy. All right, and then again, load sampled acoustics version 2, and then here's all your choices, and then you choose the preset. That'll be your easiest way to go and still have very sophisticated sound. And you can play around if it's not exactly, if you set it, if the preset doesn't work, again, you can change the reverb time here. And play with these. You never know. Wet dry, this is because of the way we're running it with this effect send, you want that to be on 100%. But this adjusts the size of the room. You can adjust these controls if you're not happy with what you got. All right. So that is creating an effect send for room reverb. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Now work on your projects.